Good afternoon. This is my 351 swapped S13. I was wondering how it's going to look, how it will fit. I've got this engine sitting a little bit forward, which I really don't mind. After driving cars with JZs and seeing how the power plant weight difference is, it's pretty negligible. Spring rates and suspension adjustments makes way more of a difference than weight and engine placement. So this engine sits approximately 1 to 2 inches farther back, even sitting forward, than an JZ or an RB after I measured it. The reason I went with a 351 over an SR20, I got rid of my SR20, was 3rd and 4th gear drifts. I even drove 2 JZs, and in 4th gear, you have that little bit of lag or hesitation. The 2 JZ I raced had an EFR turbo, really high-end build. It did good, it did fine, but there was still some throttle lag, especially in 4th gear drifts, where you're clutch kicking the crap out of it, trying to get the car out sideways. So hoping this V8 torque will kind of keep me from beating up the clutch too much. So this is going to be a naturally aspirated build. These are trick flow 11R 190 heads, just on a 351 block with high compression pistons, factory camshaft, should be close to around 400 horsepower. Future I plan on doing a 408 stroker, high compression, hopefully race gas, get me up to 600 plus horsepower. But for now, I'm gonna run a Milden front sump baffled oil pan if you're running drifting. That is an absolute must, is oil control. So we're gonna see how that goes. And with this engine place, it's kind of hard to see with everything in there, but it just clears the sway bar on the GK Tech setup. So you can do it, you can scoot your engine back. I do have a custom cross member because I got a right-hand drive. I retrofitted a Ford Mustang rack and pinion in this thing to make it right-hand drive, but you should be able to modify the S13 rack to make that oil pan clear, because I have plenty of room. I was pretty conservative with the placement, so I've got almost a pinky finger around the rack and everything else like that. I didn't modify the oil pan at all. I could have modified the oil pan and dropped the engine and moved it a little bit farther back if I wanted to, but again, it really doesn't make that big of a difference. So if you want to keep it simple and keep the front distributor, you can. I had issues with your distributor will actually spin under high horsepower, high torque applications. I had this on 302s, where I actually ended up cutting notches into this flange to keep this thing from spinning with a distributor. I didn't want to have to worry about that, so this is mainly just to drive my oil pump. I got that camshaft position sensor from 64-bit tuning. I could go into more about how to set that up. But if you want to keep it simple and run the Holley EFI setup with the distributor, that is very simple. It's going to do great. Just be aware that distributor might spin on you a little bit and set off your ignition timing. So for this build, I'm using an EMU black, which is going to give me sequential fuel control, but I'll have to do batch ignition control. So you can see my 8 D585 coils back there. I'm just going to be running those guys. Batch will still get me pretty good ignition control timing. I don't think I'll overheat the coils. The headers are custom made. I got some forward facing headers on Summit or eBay. I think these guys were like 200 bucks. I was thinking about running a turbocharger at first, but I'm just running that side over. I'm going to have it run back and down over there, and then I'm custom making this header over here. I'm not the best at making custom headers, but I think it'll work out pretty good. The reason I did that was only just to keep the starter and power steering cool, mainly the power steering cool. One thing with drifting, that power steering gets hot and boils, and then your steering just goes to crap. So this is a Power Master alternator bracket. There wasn't any pictures when I ordered it. It looks fantastic, and I'm running a Chevy alternator on this, just a one-wire alternator. KRC power steering pump, the factory Ford one works fine. I ran that on a 302, and I just made some custom lines to retrofit the rack, but again, in drift racing, this system gets hot, so running high-end KRC power steering pump. This is a Speedway Motors Speedmaster 79 bracket. I had to make some longer aluminum bushings to run dual belts. I'm going to run an electric water pump. The only downsides with the 302 and the 351s is they will leak right here because you've got a metal plate or gasket, metal plate, gasket, water pump, and I just always get a leak right in there. So I'm just going to weld on some fittings right on the front of this thing. I'm running 2 Davies Craig 150 electric water pumps, and then I just went on Summit Racing and got the biggest radiator I could possibly fit up here. I get an S13 front end conversion, and this radiator is barely going to clear the headlights. I originally had this thing mounted in the trunk, but they just recently changed the rules where they may not allow us to run that in the lower classes. So before I got my car done, I just threw it back up front, running some Spall fans. I'm not too worried. I think it should stay pretty cool. So 4150 throttle body, EFI. I think Hawley and Edelbrock makes these manifolds. I would think went with a I think this is a Jegs intake manifold. And I just custom drilled all the fuel injectors. I don't know if I'm gonna run these guys. I might go with some LS2 fuel injectors. The height's a little bit different, but the diameters are the same, and I just custom drilled those bungs. But let's see here. So again, this is a Speedway Motors bell housing. This is not SFI, but it's built like an SFI one, so I feel pretty confident with it. Really thick steel. So this is going to convert a Ford small block to a Chevy transmission. I'm going to run a Chevy. This is a Borg Warner T10 side shift transmission. Super strong. Same thing as the G-Force T101. It is just not synchronized, or not dog gears, it's synchronized, which is honestly fine. In the future, I can easily upgrade to the G-Force transmission, the shifter, and bell housing will work. So that's kind of the plan if I step this car up another level. But I'm hoping this thing will have enough horsepower and torque where I can just shift between third and fourth, and I don't think I'll really need a dog box to go between third and fourth. So yeah, so the engine fits pretty well. I'm pretty excited to see how it goes, and if you guys have any questions, let me know.